Hi, thank you for tuning in once again. This is the weekly Labour Law report for the Democratic Alliance. I'm going to concentrate on a new consolidated direction on occupational health and safety that's been put out by the Ministry of Employment and Labour. The Minister of Employment and Labour has signed a new direction, a new set of protocols. It's valid from the 11th of June this year. And I'm going to take you through some of the important parts of those directions. It is vital that if you are an employee or an employer that you understand, know, and also implement these directions. There are two very interesting things that have come out of it, and I'm going to take you through it. So thank you once again for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'm Michael Bagram. I'm the Democratic Alliance Labour spokesperson, and I specifically would like you to pass this on to family and friends. This is Sunday the 20th of June 2021, and it is vital to fully understand these directions. I'm going to look down and refer to the actual consolidated directions from time to time, so please excuse me that I'm not looking directly at the camera all the time. The specific two issues that I want to handle is, first of all, that certain employees might not want to come into the workplace because they feel that the directions haven't been properly followed and that the workplace isn't safe. As everyone knows, we've gone into the third wave and COVID-19 is spreading again. It doesn't look great. It looks like there are problems. That, coupled with the fact that the vaccination has been a complete disaster. I think we've only got 1.3 million South Africans that have been vaccinated so far. We've got another 55 million to go. This could take years. The government has really botched this one. If anything, the Department of Health had to do one simple thing, and that was to order the vaccinations, which they didn't do in time, and we're now obviously eating that bitter fruit from not ordering it in time and now trying to compete with the rest of the world. We're far behind all our African neighbours. It's sad that we are supposed to be a first world country and we're lagging behind all our neighbours. It's just an absolute disaster. That being said, obviously we have to make do with what we've got, and the Minister of Employment and Labour has put out new consolidated directions for the occupational health and safety legislation, and there are all sorts of directions about wearing masks, sanitizing, washing hands, social distancing, asking people to rather work from home if they can, to keeping shifts apart. All those things that we've seen before and we've spoken about on these podcasts, we've spoken about them at length over the last 18 months. Now there are two very interesting things that we specifically need to handle in terms of these directions. The first one is, if an employee feels that he or she feels that the directions haven't been properly followed and that there is risk at work, and they can actually point to the fact where an employer is doing something wrong, they can refuse to come to work, insist on their salary, and even declare a dispute with the Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration, and refer that dispute by filling in a Form 711. And there will be these disputes coming about because obviously now that the Minister has said that you can refuse and you can have a dispute, you can refer it to the Inspectorate of the Department of Employment and Labour. I think it's important that employers understand this, and as soon as a dispute is declared, to have it investigated, reported to the committee, and correct the wrong so that you don't have that fight with your employees who might want to cause trouble or might actually have a very good point that the workplace is not safe and is not the safety in terms of COVID-19 is not in place. So it's important, and they've outlined the structure of how a dispute would be declared, and they've also outlined the fact that a dispute can happen. And I think every employer needs to understand that. I think the trade unions are going to be training their officials, their organisers, the shop stewards on disputes of this nature. So I suspect there'll be a whole round of disputes with regards to people who believe that the workplace isn't safe. There might be also some troublemakers who might not want to work in the first place and then have those disputes for the sake of having a dispute. So bear this in mind for the future, because we don't want those disputes to be proven correct. We'd like businesses to be safe rather than to follow the protocols. So please understand that these protocols are worthwhile reading. They're simple to understand, and it is worthwhile getting a copy. If you don't have a copy, email me. I'll send you a copy of the regulations. It's michael@bagrames.co.za, Michael @bagrames, BAGRAIMS.co.za. Now, to go on to the second part, which is very interesting, it's contained in Schedule C to these regulations. It's a very interesting part. You will recall approximately 3 to 4 months ago, the President announced to South Africa that we're not going to make vaccines compulsory. No one's going to be forced to have a vaccine. That's in terms of our Constitution. People have control over their bodily integrity, they have freedom of religion, and you can't force someone to take a vaccine, which is correct. And I respect that. However, businesses now may, under certain circumstances, say that if you want to work here, you have to have the vaccine. And then there's a complete outline of how this must be done and how the business can make it compulsory. Obviously, they need to consult with the staff, with the trade union. If there's a workplace forum, they must consult with them. They need to consult with individuals who want to talk about this, and they need to put a proper structure in place as to why you must have the vaccination. If, however, you have religious beliefs stopping you from this, you need to consult with your employer and go through these beliefs with your employer. Of course, also, if you have morbidities that don't allow you to be able to have the vaccination, for instance, if you're taking very strong blood thinners, you might not be able to take the vaccination, and you could then have that structured properly with your employer. The other thing, of course, is that you have obviously bodily integrity in terms of our Constitution, and you must be able to engage your employer and have that discussion with your employer about this. The reality is, at the end of the day, is that it's all subject to discussion. The employer would only insist on it becoming compulsory for operational requirements. And those operational requirements would have to be able to be justified that the vaccination is necessary. Take, for instance, the example that I had last week, where an individual is an international clothing buyer, and they need to travel and to choose the clothing, source it, negotiate it abroad. Now, you can't travel abroad for the next few months at least if you haven't had a vaccination. And of course, at the end of the day, that job becomes redundant if you refuse to have the vaccination. And if the employer hasn't got any alternative positions for you, then obviously they would be justified in saying, well, you have become redundant to the operation, and you would be dismissed. And that would obviously be challenged and go to the CCMA, etc. So it's an interesting topic that we need to get into and to debate over the next few months. So I suspect there will be many court cases on this, where employers are making it compulsory. I know in many other jurisdictions abroad, employers are issuing certificates of compliance for people who have been vaccinated and then allowing them to come into work. And they're being very proudly shown on badges for the public who come in and deal with the people that you're dealing with, the vaccinated staff. And this goes against the grain in terms of what the President said, but I don't think it's illegal. I think what the President meant is, if you don't want to get vaccinated, don't. But I can't control what happens at the workplace. And at least the Ministry of Employment and Labour has now accepted that the actual workplace can say, due to the operational requirements, they need their staff to be vaccinated. They need to protect other staff members. What happens if the group of staff all agree to be vaccinated and protect each other, because they're working in close proximity to each other, and then one individual says, I don't feel like it, I'm not going to do it? There's going to be a revolt, and they're going to say, we don't want Joe Soap to be here, and that can create problems. So it'll be very important for every business to put together protocols rules and regulations which would be added into their disciplinary code, and after consulting with the trade unions, workplace forum, informal groups with employees, actually put into place a formula as to why people should be vaccinated and what should be done. It's very interesting. I think it's worthwhile reading this consolidated direction. It's signed off on the 28th of May 21. It's effective from the 11th of June. And within 21 days from the 11th of June, the ministry have said that if you're going to make vaccination compulsory in your workplace, you need to inform the staff within the 21 days and inform the Department of Employment and Labour. So thank you once again for listening to me. It's Michael Bagram. I'm the Labour spokesperson. It's Sunday the 20th of June. I'd be very happy to receive any comments on this. We're going to be doing some papers on it, and I look forward in due course to reporting back as to what has happened with this compulsory vaccination policy that is now put out by the Department of Labour, and how they are going to allow this. But I think at the end of the day, these policies are up to the individual firms and their staff to negotiate it. Thank you very much.